Welcome to VO Booth Besties. We're here to help working voice actors get your most important questions answered by industry pros who know. And now we're interviewing those outside of our industry, but still in the creative industry at large to find where the crossover is between our industries and how we can support each other better. So today, this is the first of our new popcasts. These are pop-up style podcast interviews. They're not scheduled in advance, and don't worry if you miss one because they'll be live on you or not live. They'll be posted on YouTube later. And you want to join us in our Facebook group because that's where we're going to post these podcasts so that people can listen to them. So, without further ado, let's meet our guest. Today's guest is Nathan Field. Okay, say it for me.
Yeah,
Field
I always have to, so don't feel bad. It's Nathan Fiedler.
Fiedler. Okay. I kept saying Fielder, and then I looked at it and I'm like word dyslexic. That's not
Yeah,
Fielder.
most people say it that way, so I understand.
Nathan Fiedler, owner of
Yeah.
Fiedler Films, based in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
Fiedler Films specializes in creating strategic video content that elevates your business above your competition. They
Yeah.
create video strategies to help build your brand, increase the number of leads or conversions, decrease employee turnover, and so much more. So, Nathan, thank you for joining us today. Why
Yeah,
don't
my
we
pleasure.
start by you telling us a little bit about your background, how you got interested in video, like how did that whole thing progress?
Sure. Well, I've had a camera in my hands for a while. Since I was little, we got a digital camera years ago. I was taking pictures with it. Eventually, they could do video, and once they could, I was stitching videos together and making funny either. Our first video was a drama. My sisters and I were the actors, and it will never see the light of day. Since then, just developed a passion for doing it. I was doing it at jobs that I was employed at. And then eventually I thought, I think I just need to do this all the time. And so now I do. And it's a lot of fun.
I love that. It
Yeah.
sounds like my family growing up. We made all sorts of crazy films. We had a like like a video camera you set on your shoulder.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how
Oh,
old I
yeah.
am. And they're super fun to watch now though. So
Sure.
with
Absolutely.
with my kids who just laugh at me. So
Yeah.
give us
Well,
the
I think
background.
that's kind of what developed the passion because they are so fun to watch. And when you get to tell a story that really matters a lot to somebody, there you get a lot of enjoyment out of that. So now we get to do that for business owners because they are very committed to what they're doing. And when we get to share their story in a dynamic and cinematic way, it brings a lot of happiness, and we love getting to do that.
Yeah, it sounds like a perfect fit, really. Yeah. So tell us the background on when did you go, yeah, I'm going to start my own business. Like this is going to be me. I'm not going to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm going to start my own company.
It was probably about 4 to 5 years ago. I was just doing media stuff at another job, and I just thought, I think I'd really like to pivot into doing this all the time. So that's when I officially started freelancing, and then, turned that into not just making videos, but actually solving strategic problems for business owners using video. And that's why it's kind of an easy thing to sell because people have problems that they want solved. And ultimately, video, since it's so powerful and present today, solves a lot of people's problems. So now that's what we do, and we do it all the time.
I love the focus on how video solves problems rather than just you need video. You're saying
Right.
here's why you need video
Yeah.
and what it will do for you.
Yep.
So, what did that jump from getting a regular paycheck from a company to relying completely on your own business feel like for you?
As I'm sure many business owners will attest to, it is a little bit intimidating because there are so many new things about not being on payroll anymore. So I think just bit by bit, I was doing the research at night after work about how do I get health insurance and how do
Mhm.
I do all these difficult things I've never had to do before. And so it was definitely intimidating, but when you get to be your own boss, it is very worthwhile to put up with some of those things that you got to figure out because the liberty is quite rewarding.
Yes, definitely, definitely rewarding.
Yeah.
So how many people work with you? Is it just you? Do you have a large team? What's your team look like?
Yeah. So production companies do it different ways. And the way we're doing it right now is I own the business, and we're kind of doing it the way that people who make movies do it. You kind of hire who you want to based on the job and
Mhm.
based on who would be the best fit. So there's a large network of freelancers. We're based in the St. Louis area. And so when we're doing St. Louis jobs, we can just leverage the people who work here to do all the different facets. So it's like when you get onto a site, you need to professionally light the scene. You need somebody to professionally capture audio. You need somebody to professionally operate the camera. So there are so many different tasks that are required to do the job well. And so I own the company, and then I leverage those skilled people to accomplish the tasks.
Awesome. So, how do you find those people? You said you have a large freelance community. Do you have a website you go to? How do you find the people you work with?
Yeah. So it sounds like you have a community Facebook group, and that is one of the ways that I find people. I did a lot of online school to further my skills, and so a lot of times when you've got a course, you've also got a Facebook group that people are there to help each other with. So community is a big deal. So that's one way, we find people online in different groups and things like that.
Hmm.
And also, once you start working with people, everybody knows somebody who is good at the thing that you need. And so you develop a network pretty quickly. And even if you don't have somebody in mind who could do the job, somebody knows somebody, and it's easy to find somebody pretty quick.
I love that. Somebody knows somebody. It's
Yeah,
true, and when you've worked with someone, you're going to trust that person that they're going to recommend a little bit more than just a Google search,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, it goes a long way. Yeah.
Personal recommendations. So the bulk of our group are voice actors or people who support voice actors.
Yeah.
So you said you do hire voice actors from
Oh,
time to
yeah.
time. Where do you source your voice talent?
Yeah, so I mean, so far we have either used the websites like Voice123 or whatever those are to help find people and get bids and things like that.
Mhm.
Obviously, from my experience, voice actors much prefer that you just go directly to them because there's less red tape and all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes we have gotten connected with people, and then we find their website after and we just go straight to them, and helps with turnaround time and some things like that. And so we'll do that. We've met several voice actors just in networking with people in our local area. And
Mhm.
so now we have some go-tos in that way as well. So there are lots of ways to that we've found people, but some ways have been a little more effective than others.
Yeah. I imagine the ease of hopping on a casting platform and having, 50 auditions within a few hours is nice, but
Sure.
the personal relationship of working through a roster that you keep yourself is nice as well. So there's some give and take there, maybe depending on how fast you need to accomplish the goal.
Yeah, and depending on what we need the voice to sound like. And I think whenever you're working on something like Voice123, um, you you maybe don't get the full breadth of what a person is capable of doing. Some people have a fairly broad ability, but you kind of just see the front facing stuff real quick and move on. So
Hmm.
I imagine that there's a little bit more that voice actors can do that sometimes we skip over just because of the fact that we're quickly browsing profiles. But when we started working with people more regularly, it seemed like they could accomplish the things we wanted to. We didn't ask, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And you don't always have the ability within the framework they give you to say everything that you're looking for.
Right.
One of the reasons we don't love casting platforms, specifically Voice123 and I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship because they rank voice actors
Yeah.
based on how often they get a like.
Ah.
So if you don't get a like on an audition, your rankings drop and you don't get auditions as quickly. And
Hmm.
so people who've been on the platform longer, their statistics have a little more wiggle room because if you've submitted 1,000 auditions
Sure.
the amount that you cannot get likes on is much higher, right? Versus
Okay.
somebody who's new to the platform. So maybe you weren't, I don't know, maybe you're not aware that when you cast on there at the beginning, you're only getting the people that have been on there the longest and have the highest rankings, which means you may be missing out on a lot of talent who
Got it.
might fit the bill for what you want, but
Sure.
they've only been in the industry for a shorter period of time. So
Yeah.
that's always frustrating. Um, I I'm wondering what are some of the struggles you feel like you've seen as an entrepreneur? Like going from that searching for your insurance to feeling a little bit more stable in your business. What were some of the struggles along the way?
Hmm. Well, when you're steering the ship, you are thinking about everything. So it's kind of hard. Like I have even struggled to know like what do I do with my time? Because it's almost you almost run into situations where it's like, what is most worth my time right now? Because it almost you almost get decision fatigue because you don't know what to work on because you could work on so many things and you're trying to figure out what is going to benefit the business most. So sometimes I just have to give up and start working on something because it's tough to narrow that down. So right now we're trying to, all the gurus tell you what the best thing to do is, but as a business owner, I'm really trying to spend a large amount of my time finding new business and not just working on what I'm already good at. Because
Mhm.
you guys are great at your your skill set. You're great at voiceover work, but nobody cares if they don't know about us. And so,
Exactly.
uh, spending a lot of time trying to, bring awareness to what we can provide for people is a big thing.
Yeah, that's you hit the nail on the head. The time management and the overwhelm of,
Yeah.
oh, I'm supposed to be managing a social media account and I'm supposed to be sending direct marketing messages and I'm supposed to be working on my samples that I've got to get up online and I'm supposed to be, there's so many things you're supposed to be doing. That
Yeah.
decision fatigue is real. Um, but I love what you said about just sometimes you just have to do something.
Yep.
It's not gonna, and nothing's gonna be the perfect thing, right? But
Yeah.
I just have to do
Right.
something and get going. And
As
you're
they
right.
say, you can't steer a ship that's not moving, and sometimes I just got to get moving.
Yeah, I love that. I just got to get moving.
Yeah.
So tell us some of your big wins over the last few years.
Oh man, to me, in the video production world, big wins are probably similar to the voiceover world. It's when you get a client as opposed to a customer. You get somebody who's like, "Oh, you're going to be our go-to person
Hmm.
for such and such," right? So for us, that's our retainer clients are people who want recurring monthly services, and they sign a 6 or a 12-month contract because as a business owner, knowing that you have money coming in next month is a helpful thing. So when you can do consistent work with people, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I one of the things I talk about is that being an entrepreneur is a lot like building sandcastles, right? We build and
Sure.
we build and we build, and sometimes they're great, and then something comes along and knocks it down, and you got to start building all over again. And so you
Oh
always
yeah.
have to be building a new sandcastle, and that's how
Sure.
clients are because sometimes they're good and you've got them for months, and then they're like, oh, we want to go with this voice instead because we're looking to shift our perspective. Um, one of the things I think that we're finding in the last 2 to 3 years in the industry, and I'm curious to know if you're experiencing the same thing, is that there's less loyalty in the creative industry. There used to be a, "You're my guy. You're who I go to." And now it feels like people are shifting jobs so rapidly that they're like, I on LinkedIn, it's, "Oh, I now I'm working for this company. Oh, now I'm working for this company." They're like every year and a half to 2 years, they're switching companies to gain experience or maybe just to find a better fit,
Yeah.
and they don't bring their creatives with them.
Yeah.
Are you finding that to be a problem for you?
Um, I don't know that we have experienced it as much. And I do wonder, I've put thought into this recently. One of the things that I think we're doing that helps mitigate that is we check in with our clients, and it's not comfortable because I don't want to find out that we're not meeting their expectations because I don't like
Mhm.
to hear that. But we are checking in with them from time to time to find out. is there anything that's not sitting well? Do you like how your content looks and sounds? Do you have anything that you'd want to see that's different? Because when we ask those questions, that opens up the conversation instead of them just thinking it, wishing it were different, and then asking somebody else to fix the problem because the person I have isn't right now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so what do you feel like are some of your big wins? Sorry, I just asked that. I'm tired. What type of filming do you do? Is it only on location or do you sometimes use a sound
That's a great
stage?
question. Yeah. So we do a lot of on location stuff. And there are times when like there's a lot of studios around that we have the option to film in. So we can, if a client doesn't have a nice, location to film where their place of business is, we can use a studio. But you mentioned a sound stage. We haven't done that, but I think we definitely should because I'm so tired of studios in the city where the audio you capture is just trash because there's trucks driving by and there's just all
Mhm.
kinds of things. And so audio isn't always as crisp as I want it to be, just because sometimes a pretty studio is a terrible location for audio.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. So I'm in some film groups on Facebook, and I've seen things about like pop-up sound stages that you can invest in and then you can rent out. Maybe there's something like that in your location where people have these. I'm not sure I know all the details on it, but they talked
Yeah,
about
but
like,
I'm going to Google it. You better believe
yeah,
it.
like it's like a little pop-up studio, and they're not cheap, but
No, but it makes sense because I used to like I would manufacture that. Like we had some sound panels that you could move around and that would like stand up. And so
mhm,
we would just like box people in because like there were so many problems and we're just hanging all these sound blankets and it's just a pain, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
So like the
I
idea.
know. I know all about recording sound in weird places because whenever I travel, I've got to be able to do auditions or
Right.
work. And
Right.
if I can't book a studio, then we're filming. We create blanket forts, right? You can't
Yeah.
do that
Oh
with
yeah.
filming sound. Like,
It's got
let
to
me get
look
my
good.
camera down here underneath
I
the
know. Yeah, that
hotel quilt.
yeah, it's tough. It's difficult.
So speaking of auditions, the way that we get work is we audition, right? How do you get work? How do you pitch to a client? Do you create a sample video to send them, or do you just come up with a prospectus? What do you do?
There are many ways, but one of the ways that we're seeing a lot of success with is in a way an audition, but we are figuring out who do we want to work with. Then we go to them and we make something for them for free to show them this is what you could have if you did work with us. And that has almost always turned into either business with them or business with someone that they know.
Hmm.
And so creating sample work is really effective. Other ways that we do that are we've got some automated funnels where we have a package put together that there are no variables in. It's strictly what it is, like a social media package with this many reels, and this is the format. And then what I just got done filming was a video for a landing page, right? And so then you can just run ads and get consistent traffic to that where people just fall into the buckets and say, yeah, we want a discovery call, right? So you've got some automated methods, you've got some methods where you intentionally go reach out to people. And then obviously there's, word of mouth, which I'm sure is big for people in your realm as well. And so
Yeah.
lots of different ways to get business, and we're trying to dip into as many of them as we can.
So what about things like LinkedIn? Do you reach out to people, build relationships? Like, is that something that you do a lot of?
Yeah, so our LinkedIn strategy is we're figuring out who we want to work with.
Hmm.
And we hop on LinkedIn and find who their marketing person is. And then we try to develop some kind of a relationship, whether that's sending, trying to connect with them or, finding contact info, calling the place of business and asking for that person by name, whatever way we can use to get a relationship with the person who would make the decisions. Because that's really you're almost wasting your time if you can't find the person who makes the decisions. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know all about that. So, do people market to you? And what are some of the ways that they do that well or not well? If you're getting, like, do you have voice actors, for example? Do you have voice actors reaching out to you going, hey, do you hire voice talent? And what are some of the ways that that's been positive or negative?
Yeah. Um, I would say what we get the most of is editors reaching out and saying pretty ineffective things, but typically they jump right into the, hey, this is what I do and I want to work with you, right?
Hmm.
And I'm sure it works sometimes, but most of the time it does not. And so the kind of people who have had success when they reach out to us. A lot of video production coaches are in my DMs pretty often. But the reason that they are finding success is they're creating content that helps me already. And
Hmm.
so when they send me a message, I'm like, I don't mind listening, because you're providing content on a regular basis that makes a difference. So I haven't had voiceover artists in particular in my DMs. It
You
doesn't mean that
probably
they would
will
never would
after
reach out.
today.
Yeah, yeah, probably will after today.
Guys, don't go
Uh,
spamming him. I will beat you up. I got to go
uh,
plug my laptop in really quick. Tell us while I go do that really quick.
yeah.
What does a typical day look like for you at Fiedler Films, or is there a typical day?
Okay. Yeah. Well, for the people on the live, there really is not a typical day, but there are a few different kinds of typical days. Obviously, we can be on set on a given day, so we've got a video shoot and we are capturing content, or we're doing, a big production with lights, camera, action. It just varies. But so we could have a day like that. Those typically start really early because we got to load in, get the set all ready and ready for talent before they get there. So we've got days like that, and then we're loading out late in the day, and everybody's going home tired. And then we have days where I'm just sitting here in PJs and I'm editing all day, and there are other days where I have a nice shirt on like this and PJ pants on the bottom because I have calls, right? So
Hmm.
there are all kinds of different days, plenty of days where I'm going to networking events and meeting the local business owners in my area and just developing relationships so that when the time comes that they need help, we're the ones they know, right? So many different kinds of days, and it definitely keeps things interesting.
Yeah, imagine that's probably one of the things that draws you to the job, right? Like, because it isn't the same thing every
Oh yeah.
day.
Yeah, I hate being bored. Hate it, hate it,
Yeah,
hate it.
same.
Yeah.
Um, well, we have a question in the chat. Do
Great.
you use audio description in any of your productions?
What is that?
Okay. So they're referring to where there's a description for the blind. So if a blind person or uh, partially sighted comes to your video and they can't see it, the captions don't help them. There's something called audio description where it's like, um, a logo appears across the screen. It's two green letter E's facing each other. Next,
Oh,
you see a plane landing and two people come out of the plane, and it explains it. And then once there's audio, like a voiceover starts, then it's more quiet unless it's describing what's happening, and it just
sure.
makes your production accessible to everybody and not
Hmm.
just um, to those who are that you're used to targeting.
Right, right. That is so interesting. We have never done something like that. Um,
Cool.
but I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
Because
it
obviously,
can.
I mean, I've seen things like that before, but I've seen them on a really limited basis. So to
So I
have a
highly
situation,
I highly
that'd be-
recommend turn on a movie on Netflix or Amazon. Amazon, I think, or we've heard that Marvel movies do a really good job with audio
oh, okay,
description. Turn
yeah,
on the audio description and listen to it, and you'll find that it's actually kind of entertaining. It can get tedious after a little while if you're not used to hearing it, but
sure, yeah,
there's sometimes Easter eggs that are in there that you wouldn't have noticed or seen. They'll point
huh,
something out in the background that's important to the script that you might not have noticed
yeah,
because you're focused on character A and B here in the foreground. But just for interesting, ideas for ways to help your business be accessible, that might be something
Yeah,
you could offer to your clients. Would you like to make this accessible to everyone?
sure.
And here's what you would do. And Stephanie Mara Johnson said that she might reach out to you because she could help you do that. So,
Cool. That
Stephanie,
sounds
feel
good.
free.
Yeah. Hit me up.
Um, Brandon asks for a film or one of your productions where there are a lot of thought monologues or asides. Are those recorded on site within a mobile recording setup, or do you record them in a studio at a later time?
Yeah. Typically we're not doing stuff on site. And like if we're capturing audio on site, it's A-roll kind of stuff. Like it's, the people that are doing the speaking.
Hmm.
So if there are things like that, it's definitely going to be after the fact, and he'll have a Foley artist or whoever that's able to capture some of that kind of stuff.
Got it. Perfect. So back to my list of questions until you
Uh-huh.
guys have more over here in the chat. Let's see. Let me make sure I got everything. What What does it look like for you handling rates with clients and negotiating? Do you have set rates for your videos? You mentioned that you
Uh-huh.
have like packages, um, or do you custom quote everything?
Yeah, great question. Most of the time, it's custom quotes for everything. And the reason for that is there are so many variables. So, yeah, I mean, we have to get them on a call because we got to know how many production days is this going to take, because we're going to have to hire people every day that we spend doing this. How many hours of our time do they need? How many do we have to pay actors? Do we have to rent a facility? Like people will often just say like, "Hey, what does it cost to have a commercial?" And sometimes they'll feel frustrated that we have to talk to them to tell them. And it's like, okay, well, a commercial could cost, anywhere between $400,000 and $100,000. Does that help? Because no, it doesn't help.
No.
So we get people on a call and custom quote a ton of things. However, we do have some packages that we can kind of nail down to this is the cost. And still, like we don't typically advertise the cost because we want to get people on a call where we can really show them the value and help them understand what the package is going to, like the problems it's going to solve before we drop the number on them. Because
Right.
video production is not an inexpensive venture. And so that's why we also don't work with everybody. Like we don't really work with coffee shops to make social media content because they don't have a high ticket offer. And so
Right.
we're not really going to be able to sell them 1,000 cups of coffee by making them an Instagram reel. However, a real estate agent selling a $500,000 house, we have to get them one client in a month, and it more than pays for the cost of video production. And then it's a cascading effect of, okay, well, now we have all this momentum on social and we're getting a following, and now there's tons of leads, right? So we're trying
Right.
to explain the value to people before we drop a price on them because they got to understand what they're getting, or else the price is just going to scare them away, to be
Yeah.
forthright.
Well, and
So,
it's so important that it sounds like you've really done your research on what the ROI is and how it can affect a particular type of
right,
business. So
right,
you're not just saying, well, this is how much it cost me to make it, so this is how much it's going to cost you.
sure.
You're selling them on what the value is and what it
Right.
brings to the
Value-based
table.
pricing changes your life.
I love it. I love it. That's one thing I think that voice actors struggle with. And yes, I'm talking to myself as much as the rest of the audience. But it's believing that we have the value to charge what we deserve. And so a lot of
Yes.
new people will start in the industry and they're like, well, I don't want to charge as much as you. I don't know. I don't have as much experience. I'm like, do you have the setup? Do you have the training? And are you ready to go? If you are, you deserve to charge as much as everyone else
Sure.
because you have the same value.
Yeah.
Um, Let's see. We've got a great question in the chat. How authentically do you cast? And is that something that's important to you, diversity in casting?
Diversity in like age, race. Is that like what are we talking about?
My guess, he says, how authentically do you cast? So my guess is, um, like, if you're using a voice, for example, and your video is representing a certain demographic, would you want to make sure that voice matches that demographic?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've been much of a stickler because when I am when I'm casting, I want it to sound like what's on the screen. So like, when I'm watching my kids' cartoons, turns out it's like a woman who is the child actor, and it's so I don't know that I've been much of a stickler about that, but I mean, I feel that often it is, whatever I'm portraying on the screen is typically going to align with who the person is. Sometimes it varies, like with the kids' cartoons, but
Hmm.
most of the time I haven't seen much of a difference. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Has anyone ever reached out to you to recommend a person for you to look into? I'm not 100% sure what you're asking, Eric. Sorry. I'm guessing he means like, has anybody ever recommended talent to you? Maybe like, oh, you should hire this actor or you should hire this videographer. I don't know. You're the videographer, editor.
Yeah, for like voiceover stuff, I've had people say like, "Yeah, I've worked with so and so before," and they send me their information. So
Hmm.
I've had referrals before. Yeah.
Um, and Eric, feel free to expound on that. Sorry if I'm not understanding. I knocked my stool over. You can't expect much of me here today. That's what we're getting. Um, so how important do you feel like networking is? Do you do a lot of local networking? We touched on LinkedIn. I know we connected via TikTok.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you value networking in your business?
Yeah, well, I don't feel comfortable having all my eggs in one basket. So because of that, I definitely am involved in networking. Um, but I think the kind of networking that provides the most results, like I mentioned before, is the kind where I just approach a business owner and I say, here's some value, right? Like we go to networking events and things, and we've met people and we've gotten business, but that's more of a long game kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, becoming a revered person and a known person in your community. But if you're looking to get work, um, that's not the fast way. To me, the fast way is go help somebody. And when you help somebody, and then they get to see firsthand, oh wow, I really liked that. Then, I mean, are they really going to go do a bunch of research and see, is there somebody that's like way cheaper than this? It's just like, oh, he gets the job done. This is what it costs to do that. And the key though is you got to be smart about who you're going to, because you don't want to just go help somebody who doesn't have the ability to ever pay you, you know?
Right.
Like, sure, if you're trying to do portfolio stuff, that's fine, but like if you're going to be a viable business, you got to figure out, first of all, who is my target? Like, who am I going for? And then figure out a consistent way to be able to find those people. Because once you do that, then you go help them. It's just like, oh, well, that's our guy. And
Mm-hmm.
now you've got business.
I
So,
love it. And I love this idea of go help someone. Like don't just send out marketing,
yeah,
go help someone. Do something
right.
to add value. That's great. That's
It
really, really,
goes a
really great.
long way. We have so many clients just because I went and I made a video for somebody and they just thought, oh man, this is great. We've been looking for somebody, you know?
Mhm.
People are looking for this. You just got to figure out who is looking for somebody. So for us, like we scroll people's Instagrams and it's just like, oh, they have this many followers. We look at their website. It's like, oh, they've got an established business, but they don't have professional video content. So let's go help them and show them what video could do for them. And then they're like, oh, well, we got to have this. And we guess what? We have a marketing budget. We don't know what to do with it. So,
I wish I
yes.
I just thought to myself, I wish Jen Greenfield, one of the other VO Booth besties, was listening right now because this is the kind of thing she's always talking about is
Mm.
find a way to add value. And she just popped in and said value, value, value in the comments. So yes, find a way to add value.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
So you mentioned that you work with editors and you work with voice talent sometimes. What are the other types of people that you hire? Because you said you outsource a lot of your stuff.
right.
What else do you need
Yeah. So,
on a
wow.
big, let's say a big set? Like you're doing something like it's not just an Instagram video. You're
Right.
filming a production for them to use, for a commercial campaign.
Okay. I will keep this brief. We need I'm showing up and I am probably director producer at that point. So I am making sure that our talent is happy and comfortable, and I am helping the talent perform to the best of their ability. I'm also communicating with our DP, the director of photography, and he is making sure that he captures everything, or has our first, camera op, um, capturing things in the way, the vision of what we've discussed previously. So there's also, your audio guy, your lighting guy. We got, terms for all that, but you gotta have those. Sometimes you got a guy who's just making sure that there's enough outlets and electricity that's, you're not gonna mess up the power grid. You've got people to assist all of these different positions. Really important position is the AD, and they are making sure that the day runs smoothly, that we're keeping things on track, we're getting all of our shots in a timely manner. You've got ACs, which are the people who are, either they are swapping lenses, or they're keeping the camera with, full battery, or they are doing the clapboard.
Hmm.
There's a bazillion different roles. And when you look at the credits of a Hollywood movie, you're going to see a whole bunch more. And so we try to keep it to, what's absolutely necessary, but there are all kinds of roles, and they all really matter.
Yes. I think sometimes talent, we get very self-focused and centric because we have to be, right?
Sure.
We're solopreneurs. We don't have a team that
Yeah.
works with us. When we're lucky, we do a Source Connect session and we have an engineer who's doing all the
Oh,
editing.
oh,
That's
nice.
always really nice.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
most of the time, we're self-directing, self-editing, producing everything, and we forget how many other moving parts are involved. And so then we go emailing and asking questions of the producer or the production company, like, "Oh, did you like it? What did you think?" And we're like, "Why didn't they get back to me?" And they've got 10,000 other balls in the air that they're juggling. It's not personal.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot going on. There's a lot going on.
There definitely is. Lots of moving parts.
So, what can talent do? And we'll broaden this to actors as well as voice actors. What can talent do to help your job go more smoothly?
Hmm. Let's see. I feel like the kind of work that we're doing with VO artists, a lot of it is like we're creating videos and then having them record something to go along with something we've already created.
Oh,
Um, so I think, I mean, the biggest challenge that I've had is I don't always know how to ask for what I want. And so I've just been trying to grow as a creative to understand what do I want and how do I say that. But I think a voiceover artist, like if you're going to add value to me, help me say what I'm asking for. And I don't know how to tell you to do that, but I know that that would go a long way with me, because obviously it saves you frustration, because you don't have to do a bunch of revisions and then charge me for extra ones, and now I don't feel happy. And so I think somebody who can help even coach me to to you know so that in pre-production we know this is what you're trying to get, and
hmm.
then that way when you deliver a first take, we're basically there, maybe tighten it up and we're good to go.
So maybe asking better questions too up front, like, who is your audience? What kind of a tone are you looking for? Like, I know one thing that frustrates me is when I don't know how long the production is. I don't often get the video. They just send me the script. They have the video done, but they don't
Right.
send it to me.
Right.
That's very helpful, by the way, when they send the video.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, but so you don't know how long it's supposed to be. And
Right.
I had a video early in my career that came out, and it was like I don't know, a minute and a half, but they had sent me like 2.5 minutes worth of script, and
Yep, they don't get
so
it.
they just sped it up after the fact. And I was like, no,
Oh
no, 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 no.
no.
Yeah. And it was sounded terrible. And so I reached out to them after it came live, and I found it, and I went, please let me redo that for you. I can talk faster and get it in the speed that
Oh
you
my
want. And
goodness.
and they did. They let me redo it. But now I
Oh,
ask, what's your time that you're looking for? What are you
Yeah.
shooting for
Oh
if
yeah.
it's already been filmed? So asking the questions, but maybe even you're saying like perhaps if you're directing them that they say, maybe they say something like, "Would you like an ABC?" And you might be like, "Well, what's an ABC?" Because you're not a voice actor. And they go,
Right.
"Oh, well, it's where I do 3 reads of each line so that you can kind of choose as you go." And maybe that might help for them to offer something that you didn't know. And I'm not assuming you don't know what that is. I'm sure you do, but um
Well, I didn't know that term, but we've had people do like 3 takes for us before, and those were helpful because it's just like, man, the way you said it here was perfect, and the way you said it here wasn't. So like I just piecemeal it, and then it's like, oh, well, now I'm done. You
yeah,
know?
well, if you ask most professional voice actors, it's usually a line read. So like where you're going line by line. So, for example, Jen Greenfield said, be the answer to the problem. So, if you're like, can you give me that in an ABC? I'm going to go, be the answer to the problem. Be the answer to the problem. Be the
Yeah,
answer to the problem. So, I gave
love
it
it.
to you 3 different ways. So, you could go,
Yes.
oh, I really liked the energy on the last line. Can you do the whole thing that way?
Yep.
And so it helps you kind of get an idea. So that's one example that where you're saying like if a voice actor did that, you wouldn't mind.
Right. Yep.
Awesome.
100%. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super fun. So, let's see. When talent reaches out to you directly, do you have any? Well, you say they haven't really, but let's say engineers or editors. Can you give any specifics on some of the things that they've done that you're like, it just doesn't work, right? Like this is not gonna benefit you.
Yeah. Well, and what's difficult is that I'm trying to figure out how a VO artist could reach out in a way that's effective. But I just know that when people are in my DMs, and first of all, obviously it's going to the requests folder. So it's like, you're always a little suspect anyway. And then
Hmm.
when I actually do go read it, it's like, okay, how canned is this? Is this just are they just copy and pasting this? Do they know anything about my business? Have they been following me? It's just most people are trying to turn around a quick lead. So
Hmm.
I feel like if you're gonna have a nurturing relationship that establishes trust, I mean, somehow you got to establish trust, right?
Yeah.
Get me to read it and say, this person could be a valuable asset. So if you just have to be able to prove value somehow. And for me, I know how to do it with my business, but I'm not sure what the best way is for a VO artist to do it.
Yeah, it's tough. I think it's goes back to what you said earlier when you're
Yeah,
reaching out to clients that you're intentional. You're not just finding a bunch of leads and shooting out the same email to all of them or the same LinkedIn message. When I and it's being real. When I first joined LinkedIn, I was brand new to I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. So I wasn't just brand new to voiceover. I was brand new to being a business person.
sure.
And I sent messages to people and I did write targeted messages to each person and I said, "It is such an honor to connect with you," and or something along those lines. And one
Yeah.
guy wrote me back and he's like, "Did you like is that copy paste because it sounds so unauthentic and
Mhm.
and not genuine the way you wrote it." And I
Yeah,
realized that I was being very formal in what I was saying and it did
sure.
sound kind of canned. And it helped me adjust my thinking. So
Yeah.
it's being intentional, offering value. Um, Trisha asks, what is the best social media platform to follow you on?
I would say we're doing better on Instagram.
Hmm.
We probably started maybe 9 months or 12 months ago, really like trying to up our game on social media so that we could demonstrate to clients how a successful social media is run. So we put a lot of effort into Instagram, and we've kind of been posting some of the same content on TikTok. But I think Instagram would probably be the best one. Facebook, we put the same stuff, but it just dies there for whatever
Yeah,
reason. So
it does. You're right. It does just kind of die there.
Yep.
Um, and maybe that's one way voice actors could engage with your content to start with, rather than just cold sending you a message in your DMs. Instead, they start engaging with your content. Ooh, I really love this video because,
Oh yeah.
oh, that's such a, I didn't know that behind the scenes thing, or because you post some really cool things about like camera movement and things.
Sure. Sure.
Um, yeah, so Instagram is the answer. Oh, she says she's a fan of Instagram too.
Great.
And Jen Greenfield, in relation to what you said earlier, she says, often you don't know what you want until you hear what you don't want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It is true. And it's unfortunate for the person who's doing the work because it's like, okay, well, now I know,
Hmm.
but we could just get clients like me to know what they want. Wouldn't that be a wonderful world?
It would be a wonderful world. It really would.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? What you guys post any other questions you have? I want to know, you mentioned that people add value, like that you add value by creating a video. Do you ever reach out to someone who has like a poor video, or it's not well done? It's clear that it was filmed with their phone, in a bathroom, not literally, but you know what I mean? The sound
Yeah.
is terrible or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you ever, how do you approach that without making them feel bad about the job that they did?
Sure. Yeah. I don't really comment on the videos that they already have. I let them do it. So if I'm ever trying to sell something to somebody, I let them sell it for me. So I just ask them questions and I say, "How have your videos been converting? Are you happy with your videos right now?" And then they tell me that they're trash because they are trash. So I love to let other people sell it, and it has worked really well. And then people don't feel like you're trying to sell them because you're not. You're just letting them talk about how they feel their experience is going. And then you can say, okay, well, we're able to do this. Would that help you? And they're like, yes, it would.
Mhm. I love that. So when you target people and you create content for
Yeah,
them for free, you talk to them first and come up with something based on that? Or do you just create something for them, send it to them and say, let's talk?
yeah. I have been straying towards the let's have a conversation first. Just because then we can make something that is a little more purposeful and useful to them, as opposed to just kind of showing our ability. And so what I have done, man, I've done both though. Like
Hmm.
I just went out, our city built some ball fields. And so I went out and just got some footage of like the first night of that happening, right? And then I put together a cinematic, 20-second commercial almost, and I sent a link to the mayor and I was like, "Hey, check this out." And he said, let's do some stuff. Let's make some videos, right? So like both ways work. But again, like it's not going to be worth your time if the lead that you have isn't somebody who would actually be a great person for you to work with.
Hmm.
So you can do it both ways, but yeah,
Well, I'll give our audience an example. I'm connected with a video production company out of Utah. The guy, actually, we've been connected since before he started the company, and had a relationship of sorts through LinkedIn, and supporting each other's content, etc. And he posted a video he had made for a wings restaurant, like or I think, yeah, I think it was a wings restaurant, some sort of,
okay.
I don't remember the name of it. And the video was great that he had made as a spec for them. It wasn't, I
Yes,
don't even know if it was paid work that he had done for them.
likely not.
Yeah. And it was great. It was well done video, but there was no voiceover. It was just music, him walking into the restaurant, all the food. And the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this really needs a voiceover.
Sure.
And
Oh
so I
yeah.
wrote and recorded one and sent it to him. And he added it to the video and put it up on his website, and he loved it. And that was an example of like, and I didn't charge him for it. It was just me showing him, this is how you could change that video just a
That's the ticket.
smidge.
That's
Yeah.
how voiceover artists can do it. So you already know
Yeah.
the answer.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
it. Like, because I don't like I'm thinking things like, man, to do that and to say things in a way that matches up with the client's brand, and to like that's just a lot of considerations, and it's like I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze, especially if I'm doing it for free for somebody already, you know.
Right.
But that's a great way to add value because you're showing me how it could be better when I didn't think it could. So,
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you won't. But you
right.
look pretty. You're not going to be like, I can't believe that you did that. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
it's
And it's
it's always
probably not a crazy time investment to record something for a 30-second video, you
no,
know?
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's fun. Yeah, Trish, I'm not saying that. I think it's just Trisha. Says she'll be stalking you on Instagram. She loves seeing local work, and she is your neighbor in North County. She says she's in
Oh,
Oside frequently. I don't know what
right
any of
on.
that means, but sounds
Yeah.
like you
Well,
do.
I do. So
Awesome.
that's
Well,
awesome.
Trisha Lovering. So when she follows you, you'll know who you're
Yeah.
talking
Follow
to.
me. I'll follow you back. That'll be great.
And Eric Chapman says it's almost like Jen is speaking too. And it you so she actually said farther up in the comments, is it weird that I want to propose to him? She's been married for like 25 years, but
But
it's
still,
just funny that you say the same things.
that's so
You've got the
funny.
same purposes and adding value and making sure that we're not just cold calling people with no
Yeah.
purpose or
Because nobody likes that, you know?
nobody likes that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that, we have a lot of the same pain points. You're working at a much bigger and broader scale with a lot of different people, but we have more that connects us than doesn't. And I think
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of times voice actors see the video production company as like so much better than them. They like, oh, I can't even talk to this person but
Oh,
you're
no,
just
no,
a
no.
guy doing the
I'm
thing.
just some guy like and I have pain points. And if you can figure out what my pain points are and you can fix one of them, then I am now your friend. I am not just some guy anymore, you know.
Right.
So help me.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
You've covered a lot, and I feel like um, you're a great person for people to follow on social media because you
sure.
do post some really great behind the scenes things, and
Yeah,
so I encourage our audience to post, um, to comment on your posts, and to help engage with your content. So
yeah, I'd love it.
thank you for joining us, and thank you to everybody who joined us live today. And if you missed today's podcast episode and you're listening later, join us in the VO Booth Besties Facebook group because that's where we'll make the announcements of these podcasts. And if you want to catch up on the 80 episodes of our podcast, you can visit boothbesties.com or anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. And we love it when you hop on and give us a review. I'm sure that Nathan would love it. If you see something and you want to send him a positive review on something, I'm sure he'd appreciate that as well. Those reviews help us reach more people, and that's always a benefit. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you all for being here and have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to stop the